One of my friends and clients works for a toy company that makes bricks. You can figure it out. Over a beer in Copenhagen, he says, "We found this tool which will scan every brick in your pile and show you every conceivable toy you can make." I said, "What?" Every brick in your pile and every conceivable toy you can make. How many of y'all have kids or have ever been a kid? Right. That every hand didn't go up is a problem, but we'll come back. When you build Legos with your kids, you think you're there to build cool stuff. In truth, my buddy Jesper told me, he says, you're actually there to make lasting memories. But in his own inimitable words, he says, the problem is these pain-in-the-butt little pieces. And I'm like 2 beers in, so I was just like, you make the pieces, bro. But his punchline was that time spent in that muck is time robbed from the magic. And then, somewhere around round 3, he says, that magic stands on the shoulders of other externalities too. Somebody's got to make the bricks. Somebody's got to drill the oil that goes in the petroleum that makes the bricks. And I'm like, dude, you lost me. And he goes, yeah, well, because you don't think about that because it's below the not my problem line. And I go, oh, we need another round. And what he says is, the reason he loves that app is because it raises the water line so that we spend less time on that muck and can free more precious human cycles for that magic. And I'm thinking, oh, that's good. And so I get together with one of my clients who's the chief product officer at one of the largest banks in North America, and I cannot tell you who they are either. But this guy looks at my picture and he goes, listen, my North Star is not nearly as poetic as making memories. I'm here to make money. But I'll tell you what, I make that money with differentiated products and services. You know what gets in my way? Admin. And you know what gets in that way? Front office software. And you know what gets in that way? These blinky lights in the basement. And if what you're telling me is, in the same way you Deloitte cats could solve problem 1 with the cloud integration and problem 2 with the ERP CRM systems integration, you're telling me this AI business is going to free that time to do more of the good stuff? And I said, yes. And he said, I'm in. And I said, sign here. Now, it begs the question, what about our boy here? I call him Toby. What about Toby? Were any Tobys harmed in this experiment? Well, the skeptic, the cynic would say, yeah, because when the water line raises up, don't need Toby no more. And that's at the existential heart of our dread in this new normal. But remember what that client said. It wasn't about doing today's work with less Tobys. It was about freeing Toby to get busy on the good stuff. Smart businesses realize that you can't shrink your freaking way to success. David Packard of Hewlett-Packard, the guy knew what he was talking about. You can't lean and mean and whittle and efficiency and Six Sigma yourself to growth. It doesn't work like that. Because if you do that, somebody with no business being in your business comes along and they put you out of business. And so what do? What you got to do is you got to get Toby up into the magic. And this is very exciting because Toby's getting a raise in promotion. He's got a better haircut. He's wearing a quarter zip. He's whiteboarding. He's a thought leader. But it's right here where skeptics and cynics and Anchorman's Ron Burgundy would say in his inimitable way, I don't believe you. Why? Because the question remains, can Toby swim? The only way this works is if humans float, or can swim, or can somehow otherwise figure out how to move along with the AI waterline. Team, specialization has been a reliable path to reaching par with best practices. Cross-pollination is the key to creating next practices. And as we worry about the musical chairs game of which of these ever-diminishing number of majors should my kid major in, the answer is all of them and none at all, because it's up and away, not hunkering down. And it ain't new. We talked about memory and minds. We've had 300 years to get used to the idea that we ain't terribly well positioned against a steam engine at anything. But we grew up with it. It's normal, so it's not provocative and crazy, right? The industrial age taught us that. It taught our grandparents and their grandparents that. No biggie, right? Before that, we had the agrarian age, and that was presumed too. But I'm assuring you, each of these transitions was a freak out when they took place. And the derivative, kind of recursive takeaway here is that just as agrarian experts force multiplied the productivity of the planet, so too did industrial experts force multiply the productivity of the farmers. And then the IT crowd came in and they force multiplied the productivity of the industrialists. And here comes the AI crowd force multiplying the productivity of the IT crowd. And it begs the question, what are we going to do? The derivative here, in the same way that position begets velocity, begets acceleration, begets jerk, is that industry begets information, begets intelligence, begets ingenuity. Ingenuity is where our and our kids' fortunes stand to be made.